joining us right now for another Weinberg Wednesday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM. It is Dave Weinberg. Check out his extra point columns over at 97.3 ESPN.com, at Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter. He joins us right now on the live stream here on 97.3 ESPN. Dave, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I know for you, probably the weather is a bit of a letdown. It's still August, and it feels a little bit more like late September, early October. How you doing with that?
Yeah, I prefer the heat, but I was mainly concerned about the rain. I didn't get a chance to get outside and do much today, which kind of bummed me out a little bit. But there's always tomorrow.
Yes, there is always tomorrow. At least according to the weather experts, who we know they're right about as much as baseball hitters hit baseballs. Listen, it's supposed to be nice this weekend, so take that with a grain of salt, right?
Very good. I'm looking forward to it.
So we got a lot to touch on, Dave. Obviously, football is back. I finally broke out the Eagles shirt for the first time
nice.
Since last year. So to me, I'm all footballed up. But I got to start with the news that came out on Monday. Carson Wentz out 5 to 12 weeks. And to me, I wrote this on 97.3 ESPN.com. To me, Dave, I look at it like this. The Eagles already won the deal. They got rid of the drama. They got rid of this mess that is Carson Wentz. Because you know what? Whether you get the first, second round pick, to me, it's almost negligible at this point, because if he would have been injured in Eagles camp, you and I both know that everyone in this area would have been losing their minds about him getting injured again.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think there's a heck of a lot of difference between that first and second round pick. It'd be nice to get the first, but if they're going to package that to move up in the draft come April or whatever, I think they'll be able to do it without much of a problem. And yeah, you're right. If this had happened at the Novacare complex, I mean, Philly would be going bonkers. So the fact that they kept them, why didn't they get rid of him? And now he's hurt yet again. That would have been a real circus. It probably is out in Indy too. I don't know how many people cover the team, but it probably is a little bit out there too.
Well, the last time I did a head count, I think they have 6 people who are committed to the beat in Indianapolis. So
well, that's probably better for him then, because
right.
he had a tough time handling what was here.
Now, the funny thing, though, is not funny, but ironic, is that so Quentin Nelson apparently has the same injury.
Yeah.
So how weird is that? You have 2 players they randomly broke a bone in their foot and they didn't know that it was breaking. It's just, I'm talking about a weird situation out there in Indianapolis. You almost feel bad for Frank Reich.
Yeah, I mean, it must be like something with the turf, I guess, because those Frank injuries, they're no joke. And when you suffer one, you can be out for a long time. And but I find that week 5 to 12 window a little strange. I mean, that's a pretty broad range, 7 weeks. But I guess they're hoping that they'll be back as soon as possible. Quentin Nelson's a huge loss too. I mean, everybody wants to focus on Carson Wentz, but that guy's as good a guard as there is in the league. So to lose him is a big blow for them.
Well, here's the good news for Eagle fans. That is, if Wentz comes back either week 4 or week 5 for the Colts, which is about 8-9 weeks out, you can still get the first round pick. So it's not like it's completely out of the question. But like I said, Dave, to me, the bigger thing was just get him out of here, move on.
Yeah.
It's just a shame that last year was such a dumpster fire that we're still looking back on it thinking, how on earth did last year happen with so many different things?
Yeah, it's best to just turn the page. And I find it interesting that Indy's actually I hear Nick Foles' name being brought up there, and they're real hesitant to do that because they're afraid of the relationship, that Wentz might get his feelings hurt again about having Foles in there. And if Nick comes in there and plays well for Frank Reich, he's going to be a cult hero again, just like he was in Philly. So, I find it really interesting that they're and I've heard talk today that Phillip Rivers might be coming back. That might be the most logical move. I mean, the fact that he played for him last year.
Well, the problem is you got to pry Phillip away from coaching high school football down in his hometown.
Yeah.
He's a little busy, he says. Phillip's like, well, I'd maybe consider. I keep in shape. And it's like Phil, you keeping in shape is not exactly telling me you're ready to go out there and start week 1. And listen, someone brought this up comment to me earlier this week, and Dave, you tell me what you think. Someone told me earlier this week, they were like, well, if Frank Reich is such a great coach, can't he coach up Jake Eason and Brett Hundley and Sam Ehlinger at least to hold them off for a couple of weeks in the season?
That's going to be an interesting challenge for Frank. I mean, he does have that reputation as kind of the I don't want to say quarterback guru, but the kind of guy who can develop quarterbacks, and that's going to be a real challenge for him now with Carson out. I mean, I think they would have been much better off bringing in like an established veteran. I mean, Brent Henley's okay, but he really doesn't have a whole lot of experience. I think it was like 20 games or something like that. If to bring him in and have him teach him in the entire new system, I think you would have been better off having somebody that actually has some background with Frank that kind of knows what he expects and how he teaches and that kind of stuff. But I guess they know better than me.
Or maybe they don't. Maybe they don't. Listen,
that's true. We'll
listen.
Find out.
hey, man, just because someone has a job doing something doesn't mean they're an expert. It just means they happen to be the person doing that job. So
there you go. Yep, that's true.
Dave Weinberg joining us as he does each and every Wednesday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN for a Weinberg Wednesday. Dave, let's jump over to Eagles camp. But speaking of last year, Travis Fulgham told the media today that basically confirmed what everybody thought, which is he was basically benched last year for Alshon Jeffrey to get playing time, which is really sad because to me, it just is another sign that how just disastrous last year was, that you have a young man playing great and you tell him, hey, you're going to lose reps because Alshon came back. Like, talk about just a punch to the gut for a young player.
Yeah, I mean, they were floating that idea that he was somehow his practice habits weren't the best, so that's why they sat him down. And that would almost be more plausible than sitting for Alshon. I mean, you were at the point of the season where, Alshon wasn't going to give you anything anyway, so why not just develop the young kid? They were at that, like I said, they were at that point where the more young players you can develop, and Travis had an outstanding month of the season, and then all of a sudden he disappears. I mean, no sense to me at all.
Dave, I asked this question earlier this week, and I asked it again today, and I want to ask you, because we know Doug Pederson, he brought this team a Super Bowl. He is all-timer for this organization.
Yep.
But there's a part of me that wonders. I heard Doug say multiple times at press conferences how much he loves play calling, how much passion he was about it.
Yep.
Is there a possibility that Doug was so in love with play calling that he at times forgot to coach?
No, I don't think so. I mean, well, when you get to the NFL level, coaching is pretty much done by the coordinators and by the position coaches. The head coach most of the time is pretty much like the overseer of everything. He's the one that's developing the game plan, though, and he's the one most of the time calling the plays, especially if he's a offensive-minded guy. I don't think that it affected Doug, to be honest with you. I think he had a pretty good idea what he had on his team and how to coach them, if that's what you can call it. I mean, it's more of a coach is more of almost like a general manager when you get to that point, because, like I said, the position coaches, they're the ones that are in the rooms every day and on the field every day with all their respective players. They're the ones that are kind of teaching the system to the guys, and Doug kind of like I said, kind of oversees it all. So I don't think that had a negative effect on him. I really don't.
Let me ask you about the current coach. Nick Sirianni has done and said a lot of things since he's come to Philadelphia. And one of the things that stood out to me was what he said about Jalen Hurts. He was very complimentary of Hurts as a red zone quarterback. Right. And to me, that's a sign of a quarterback's IQ, because it shows that the quarterback is able to process information in a very short window. What were your takeaways from what Sirianni complimented about Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, it is a sign of intelligence, a sign of being able to make decisions very quickly without, necessarily holding on to the ball too long or going through a whole lot of progressions. If you find that, your guy, you're able to get the ball out. Plus, he can make, plays with his legs, as everybody knows. So, yeah, I mean, the red zone is such a vital part of a game plan. And the fact that Jalen has already started to, I don't want to say master it, but become more comfortable with it, that can only bode well for him going into the season, I think.
Now, with that being said, I do also think it's interesting that, Hurts, he's going to be going into the preseason, but it looks like without Devonta Smith, he's going to be out 2 to 3 weeks. So at least miss a couple preseason games, the sprained MCL. So I kind of have to wonder, will that stunt the offense's development without your number one receiver out there?
Maybe, yeah. That's a pretty big blow for them. And when you're talking about week to week, that means he's going to be out for a little bit, I think. You agree between the lines. He's not coming back anytime soon. I think it's a sprained MCL.
Yep.
That's what I was hearing. So, yeah, and and it's really a blow to Devonta. I mean, you were looking for your first round pick to come in and make an impact right away, and he had gotten off to a decent start in training camp. I mean, he was impressing everybody with his catching ability, his speed, and all that. And the fact that he's going to be sitting down, that's gonna hamper him too. It's going to be interesting to see how they work around that and how they incorporate him back once he's able to play again. You're right.
Yeah, of course, Darius Slay was very complimentary to Devonta Smith, saying how intelligent he was, how quick of a learner he was. So it's just a shame all around. But the good news from camp, Dave, is that someone's taking a hold of that left tackle situation. Apparently, Jordan Mailata looks like a beast compared to Andre Dillard. So at least it's not like both guys coming in mediocre, right? It's one guy firmly going out there and doing work so far. Obviously, we got to see what the preseason games happen.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan seems to have taken the early lead in that competition. I'm not quite ready to give him that job just yet, but so far he's proven that last year wasn't a fluke. That the promise that he showed is real. And Andre, on the other hand, has some work to do. He still has to prove to the coaching staff that he is worthy of being that first round pick. So far, he hasn't done it, but there's a long way to go, and it's really. I remember talking to guys in training camp, especially offensive linemen, and like John Runyon going back a little bit ways, and they hated those one-on-one drills, absolutely despised them because it really wasn't a true measure of pass blocking ability. Because so often you have help on the inside or the outside. Those guys are still always trying to divide different moves, and they get extra time too to get to the quarterback, so to speak. So I know that they're not big fans, and I'll be more interested to see what happens in the preseason when those guys are out there.
Also, what are your thoughts on, apparently the Eagles told Mailata, we would like you to lose 25 pounds. He was fully clear, apparently, of that 25 pounds when he showed up at camp, and apparently he's in the best shape of his life.
Oh, that's great to hear. Yeah, I mean, he's a kid still. I mean, he's probably a little bit older now, but well, he is everybody's a little bit older. But yeah, he's an athlete, and he knows how to do it. I mean, he was probably putting on weight first for the first two seasons because he wasn't playing any. So he's actually just probably working out and eating. But yeah, the fact that he's in great shape, that's a really encouraging sign. Same thing with Brandon Brooks. I got a kick out of him. How he lost all this weight, right, and he gained it all, and everybody's wondering if he's on steroids or what have you. But that guy knows his body more than anybody. I mean, he knows what to do to get ready for an NFL season and to recover from an injury, considering he's had his share over the past couple of years. So, I'm really encouraged by what I've seen from Brandon Brooks so far too.
Yeah, Brandon Brooks and Jordan Mailata may be the most physically in shape current NFL offensive lineman I think I've ever seen at this point. The way they both I'm used to offensive linemen, Dave, being they're hefty, they got the stomach, they're a little, thick around the leg area, whereas, Brooks and Mailata look like, I don't know, they might be able to play defensive line, not just offensive line.
Oh, that used to be the way. Yeah. I mean, more and more, I think you're finding offensive linemen now are a little bit leaner, a little more athletic. Like Lane Johnson was a quarterback when he first went to Oklahoma.
Right.
So, he has that athleticism about him. And you kind of need that now because you like you said, the defensive linemen you're going against are all agile, strong, fast. So you kind of have to be able to counter that. And just weighing 340 or what have you, just being this big, hulk of muscle inside is not going to cut it again when you're going against guys like that. So you have to be able to counter it.
Absolutely. Dave Weinberg Wednesday, joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN at Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter. Check out his extra point columns over at 97.3 ESPN.com, where, Dave, you did write about boxing finally returned to Atlantic City. Give the folks a little taste of what you wrote about on the extra points column, because it seems like it went very well.
Yeah, I was so excited. It was a sellout crowd at Showboat. Everybody was really into it. And you can tell that people missed being there and being at a live event. I mean, they weren't world championship fights by any stretch of the imagination, but they were all competitive. They were all exciting. And you had fans from every fighter had his own rooting section. They were really loud, very boisterous. It just felt so good to be in that kind of atmosphere again. It had been 16 months since we'd had a boxing event in Atlantic City, and I'm glad it's finally back, and hopefully it's here to stay. I mean, who knows what's going to come up with the the various protocols and stuff, but I'm hoping that they'll be able to sustain it for at least, the rest of the year.
Now, in terms of just the property itself, you said that they sold out at Showboat. Do you think that was a sign the Showboat they need to, get some more events in there, kind of thing?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, Bart Blatstein's a pretty big sports fan, the guy that owns Showboat, and so I wouldn't put it past him to do that. They do have a 10-fight deal with Manny Rivera, the promoter from Hard Hitting Promotions. But yeah, they've talked about getting MMA in there, more MMA stuff, amateur boxing. So yeah, I mean, they have plenty of room to improve there. I mean, I think there's plans to have build some sort of 10,000 seat arena next door, which will lend itself to bring in even bigger fights, hopefully, bring bigger events aside from the exotic circus that's there now, I guess. But yeah, it's I think the fact that it's not a casino kind of turns some people off, but they've been doing a great job of adding various amenities to the place, and I think it's a lot more attractive than it had been. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to them continuing to build on it.
Any word on when the next date is yet, or are we still waiting on that?
Yeah, August 28th. Yep.
August 28th, and that's at Showboat too, right?
Yeah, correct. Yes, all the 10 fights with the deal over at the Showboat. Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. So again, that's is that the week before or the week of Labor Day weekend? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
2 weeks before, I think.
2 weeks before.
I think,
okay.
Yeah, I think Labor Day weekend is 2 weeks after that.
So
I'm pretty sure.
It's technically still the summer season then. You getting people.
Yeah.
Well,
they got high school football coming up pretty soon around that time too, I think, right?
Well, that's true. They call it now, week 0 or week X or whatever, some wacky name, because technically week 1 is not supposed to be week 1, and that's a whole nother
right. Too confusing for me.
I just say there's games on. That's what I say.
There you go.
Because Dave, listen, this is the first week that we will have football of NFL or college football variety for every single week until the middle of February.
Wow. I didn't even realize that. That's a long time.
Hall of Fame
That's
game.
a lot of football.
Hall of Fame games tomorrow night. So
Yep.
If people want to satiate their appetite, I suggest that that's where you do it. Just don't bet on it. So.
Right. Watch the first quarter and find something else to do. Watch the Olympics.
Dave, I also know, before I let you go, I know you've been keeping an eye on the lifeguard racing scene. Just wanted to get your reaction. I know that the Dutch Hoffmans were last Friday. The Margates are this Friday. Of course, folks can hear the races here on 97.3 ESPN. Just want to get your thoughts on the lifeguard racing scene as we head down the stretch here.
It's been fantastic. I've been to maybe 3 or 4 events so far, and they've all been terrific. Wildwood Crest seemed to be the dominant patrol for a while, but Longport really showed themselves to be the team to beat once again at the Dutch Hoffmans. That was a terrific swim. Everybody was looking to that swimming race between Joey Tepper of Longport and Devin Grisbaum of Avalon, and that lived up to the billing. And Joey hasn't lost a race in 3 years, and added another victory to his total. So it's going to be interesting to see those two go at it in Margate and then in Longport for the South Jerseys.
He's Dave Weinberg. Give him a follow on Twitter at Dave Weinberg19. Check out his extra point columns over at 973ESP.com. And, of course, his podcast, which would be Tequila and Touchdowns with Dave Weinberg. And he joins us each every Wednesday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Dave, always enjoyed the conversation, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks a lot, Josh. I appreciate it as always. Talk to you next week.